but I'm going to turn on this and get started. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a review based on what we've done in past weeks. So we're calling this Enlightened Journeys Focus. We're focusing on lessons learned from pilgrimage. And starting out the first of the year, we wanted to talk about having focus, focus for the future, focus for the new year. And we spent some time, if you have downloaded the workbook, you can go back and follow the first 2 weeks, which were on identifying targets, life targets, and some values, really anchoring your values to that. I can put in the chat where to download that. You don't need to download it. I think it's a $4.95 download. If you want to work without it, you don't need to have it. That's fine. Today we're going to talk about headwinds. But it's just as a little background about myself. As I was just mentioning, I live in Utah. I consider myself a pilgrim. I completed the Camino de Santiago the first time in 2009. I've gone back 4 or 5 times since on different routes, and as well as gone back to school and just about completed a Doctor of Ministry in Pilgrimage Spirituality. I'm the caretaker, so to speak, of Camino for Good, the app that you can walk virtually on the Camino de Santiago on the 3 different routes right now, the Camino Francés, the Finisterre, and also the Portuguese route. And we'll be adding more in the near future as well. We started this year because we thought it was an opportune time, kind of looking at a threshold of a new year, stepping through the threshold into and wondering, what's ahead, and setting some goals and setting some direction for that year. One of my favorite quotes, I've shared this before in the other groups, is by Seneca. A man should never wander around aimlessly, but steer his ship on a definite course, not where the winds blow, but to a point of his choosing. To me, that sums up what pilgrimage is, to at least a starting conversation. What pilgrimage is a journey, right? A journey with focus, a journey with purpose, a journey with promise. And a new year, as I mentioned before, we stand at the threshold of a new year, is a new journey as well. So I'd like to look at this as the kickoff of the pilgrimage for a new year. Walking, if you plan on walking the Camino de Santiago or another pilgrimage route this year, or using the app to walk, I think walking is a great way to clear the mind and to focus your attention and focus your intentions for the year. So I see pilgrimage really as a journey of heart, might, mind, and strength. It requires an open heart, an open mind, and it requires a physical strength. There's a physicality to it, and it certainly requires your might of all 3, right? Of heart, mind, and strength. So the idea of this workshop would be to give you some focus, give you some activities to help you focus on things that would stretch you a bit for the year, right? So to stretch your mind, to stretch your heart, stretch you physically, and give you the opportunities to focus a little bit more using the workbook. We've got a few chats here. I'll just go back and look at them. So welcome, Virginia from Berkeley, and Buddy in New York. That's fine. If you can't participate with the video, that's great. That's fine. Ivory, welcome. And we'll have a few more people, I'm sure, joining in as well. Just as way of conversation, I do think walking is a big part of this. I say that this is our app replicates, right, the way of St. James, the pilgrimage route in Spain. And I think it's a great opportunity when we're walking to think about these things. So it's designed to say, here's an activity, do the activity and think about it as you walk each day, and then track your walking on the app so you can track where you're at virtually on the Camino de Santiago. So as I started last week, I'd love to hear any walking experiences that you've had from the past week. So, and this could be in conjunction with the activity we had, which was thinking about areas of your life and how to live them in their fullest potential. Or it could just be some walking experience you did either on the app or in real life. So I'm just going to turn the time over to some of you, and I'd love to hear, or you can add to the chat as well. I've had difficulty walking, honestly. It has been bitter, bitter cold weather here. So I've had a little bit of a challenge getting out like I would like. But how about the rest of you? Ivory says it's very cold as well.
Cold here too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the weather's been really beautiful in Cape Town, so I get to walk every morning. I live on the seaside, so I do a walking meditation every morning along the promenade, and it's really beautiful. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to do that. I've done 2 Caminos in France and Spain, and I did the walk on the app. What's it now? Just when you first launched it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really good experience because it was kind of a COVID, coming out of COVID experience, really.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Margie. Yeah, you're fortunate to live in a beautiful place. So, and the weather's pretty good year round there, is it not?
We have winter for about 2 months, but it's not, we don't have snow, or it's not really cold here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Lucky you. I turned my camera out there and you'd see a cold place, frozen world right now. How about the rest of you? Any other walking experiences from the week?
We've had it cold too, but I do get out and walk maybe 5 kilometers instead of 10. And no, it's very beautiful. We've got snow right now, and we're on Vancouver Island. It's not usually this cold for so long, but anyways, we're managing.
Good. Thank you, Judith. And Margie mentioned this, and not walking. Well, Judith, you mentioned not walking as far, and Margie mentioned doing meditative walking. One of the things I love about walking in the winter is the breaking of the ice under my feet. And there's a specific type of ice that makes a specific sound. See if you can relate to this. It's when a shallow puddle of water freezes over, and then the water underneath it either is all frozen or it evaporates. So it leaves an open space under it. And when you step on that, I'm like a little kid. I seek these out. I step on it, and the sound is like a breaking of glass almost. So I think part of the joy of walking is being opening up your senses. And in wintertime, it seems to me that sound carries in a different way. And those noises, those sounds have a different sensation maybe than they usually do. Like pushing through a brick wall, walking gives me exhilaration. Thank you, Ivory. Any others? Any stories from the week? Any experiences from the week, or any plans you have for walking?
No, I wanted to mention too that it's so cold here that there's a farm field that had been flooded and it's frozen, and kids are skating outdoors, which is nice to see.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on a little bit. Last week, what I did is I broke people up into groups, and I asked them to share their experiences from the previous week. So, but I think what we're going to do is we'll do this. It's a smaller group this week, so we'll do it all together. What I'd like to do is just open the discussion. We did this week 2, kind of a future perfect exercise. And what I mean by that is I asked you to consider on day 1 to think about each area of your life in terms of living it to its fullest potentials, and trying to think and identify what qualities that you would like to get out of each area. So what would be your expectations, your intentions for living in these areas of your life? Now, I shared there's a tool in the workbook. Let me pull that up and just as a reminder. It looks like, well, for heaven's sakes.
Oh,
Hold on a minute.
Mark.
This isn't what I want. Let me see if I can get there from here. Sorry. It looks like this. So I asked you to consider at least 4 areas, but the nice thing about this is really you can create your own areas. So I had 4 segments: relationships, personal growth, and that would include spirituality. It could be health. It could be, I did put education up here. So it could be, your work, or if you're in school, it could be education. It could be going back to school. It could be reading, and then leisure or travel. I think these are areas that I think that are important, but you could subdivide these or add more to them. So the idea with this is that the target in the middle is the way you want your life to be. So if you were living to your fullest capability intentions, that would be hitting the bullseye on that target. And if you're farther out, you're saying, these are things I would like to have, but I'm far away from it. So for example, it's the new year. Everybody always wants to lose weight. I put that as a health goal, right? So if I were to, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but I want to lose about 20, 25 pounds. I'd love to do that. And if I was living intentionally, that's the goal. But living intentionally is probably more than that. It's not just losing the weight. It's also about eating healthy. So I want to reduce. I want to reduce the amount of carbs I'm eating. I want to reduce the amount of processed food I'm eating. It's also including walking. So I want to walk 3 to 5 miles a day. These are intentions that I have in order, and losing the weight is one of those things, but it's more important than just a goal saying I want to lose weight. It's how I'm going to live. I'm going to live that way by eating better. I'm going to lose that weight by walking. Okay. And I would feel better. I would have more energy. So if I were to look at that right now, as a silly example, I would say that I'm probably, I'd have to mark that X out here somewhere. So I'm on the outside of that. I'm not the way I'd like it to be. But you can do this with each of these. So it's a way to evaluate and identify certain areas of your life that you'd like to focus on. So the first day's activity that I asked you to walk through last week was to think about those areas. What qualities, what expectations, what intentions you would have for each of those. Work, education, relationships, leisure, travel, and personal growth, spirituality, or health, and any others that you may identify there. So once you identified the areas, I'd ask you during the week to describe the values you have in each one of those. So that helps you think about, so if I go back to the weight issue or the health issue, why do I want that? It's because I value activity. I value the really being able to enjoy the physicality of life, right? I want to be able to experience that cold rush of air walking. I want to increase my heart rate. I want to feel that rush, right? Those are things that I value in life. So I describe that a little bit more in detail under that area of goal there. And then the last one was to say, look closely at your intentions that you've identified and think of that bullseye. So where are you at? How far are you away from the bullseye? And then we will talk this week as we move into it about ways to close the gap. Okay. So I shared one example and just briefly about, my health goals. I'm going to share one more, and then I'd like to that I thought about during the week that I'd like to open it up for others. So, I have a goal. I'm writing my thesis right now for my doctorate, and I have a goal that I need to. It's an imposed goal. I need to finish that by the 1st of March. It has to go to the editors, and then by April it will be my defense of it. So I'm trying to if I'm not there. So if the bullseye had looked at it, I'd say I'm probably halfway. Well, I'm more than halfway there. I'm 3/4 of the way there, but I'm refining my arguments. I'm refining my thoughts. And so my intention would be to align myself more with that idea of pilgrimage spirituality. So I'm immersing myself in reading. I'm immersing myself in trying to think like a pilgrim, and that's part of the reason why we're doing this activity this week or this month. So those are my intentions around that education, right? Why do I want to do that? It's not going to give me any more money. It's not going to advance my career. It's because it makes me feel like I'm more full of a person, more complete as a person, and in an area that fascinates me and motivates me. So I have that as that bullseye is that March date, and I'm kind of 3/4 of the way there. And my goal then would be to, on a daily basis, I'm spending 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes on the day writing and refining that talk or that paper. Right? So it's just an example. Anyone else? We'd love to hear from others that have some intentions that they're making, they're thinking, and that you've thought about during the week.
Somebody else.
Don't be shy.
Okay. I'll go.
Yeah, Virginia, go ahead.
Can you
Thank
hear me okay?
We can. Thank you.
Hi there. Good morning. Just kind of early here, and I had to get ready to be seen.
Virginia, where are you
Sorry about
calling?
that.
Where are you calling from?
California, Berkeley,
Okay.
California.
Thank you.
So I'm not quite sure how to respond, but I'll just say that I have a deadline as well. I'm moving from California to Virginia to be closer to family. My husband died about 1.5 years ago, and I just decided it was time for a really big change. So, I could probably refer to every aspect around your bullseye, but my bullseye right now is to sort through way too many possessions that had meaning for me, but which I have to let go of because I'm moving to a much smaller place. And it isn't just a question of, okay, let's get rid of that textbook. I don't teach that class anymore. It's also objects that, oh, my son made this, but he doesn't want it. So this is my, maybe it's part of growth, spirituality, and health. I don't know. Entering a new phase of life, living in a different environment. I understand it's snowing there. It doesn't snow in Berkeley, California. So this will be a big change for me to have a winter, a real cold winter. So one thing I learned when I walked the Camino, I walked the Portuguese Camino, was that I really felt like I was interpreting the term Camino and the word journey as this event in my life, but afterwards I realized my life is the journey. It isn't just this 3 weeks of walking from Porto to Santiago de Compostela. It continues. So I'm trying to keep that in mind as I go forward, that I'm on a Camino. My Camino has changed. It's been raining, so I haven't been as good at walking. I did do the app though, soon after after I finished the Camino, your walk. What is it called? Camino for Good,
Camino for
or
Good,
something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
I did that. So at one of the things I'm doing is read for comfort. That comfort is comfort on there. Spiritual comfort.
You could certainly add that. Yeah.
A book. Yeah, I'm rereading a book from my childhood that I didn't couldn't remember why I loved it so much. And then I realized it was a book I hadn't yet gotten rid of. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll see what this is about. And I'm totally engrossed in it. And now I see why I love that book. So
And what book
anyway,
is it,
that's it.
Virginia?
I don't want to take what book? It's called
Mhm.
The Secret Garden
Yeah.
by British author Frances Hodgson Burnett. And it's about a little girl whose parents don't pay any attention to her. She isn't physically loved by them. They both die. She lives in India, and so she's sent to live with her Scottish distant relative on the moor, and etc. It's
Mhm.
actually
You know,
good for me.
Virginia, I'm sure many of us have had an experience where we've had to downsize, and first of all, I'm sorry for your loss, and excited for the changes you have. It reminds me, I went through a separation and then a divorce, and it was very painful. And part of that pain, I think one of the hardest things was when it comes down to say, you know, the things that used to surround yourself, or I used to surround myself, was that kind of identify yourself with, right? Or as now I'm letting go of it. And it's a hard separation sometimes. Yet it's an exciting beginning as well, a new beginning.
Yeah.
How many of you have walked the Camino, and the first day or two out start throwing things out of that backpack because it was just it was just too much, right? Yeah, we can all experience that. And I'm told, I've never done this, I've never done the Appalachian Trail, but I'm told that when you start the Appalachian Trail down in Georgia, that the first day out, like the first walk days out, some guy did like a UPS business, and that is thriving because everybody's unloading their stuff and sending it back home because they realize that they're carrying too much.
Believe it.
Yeah, life's kind of that way sometimes. Yeah. Thank
Mhm.
you for sharing that.
Good, good analogy.
Anyone else
Thank
have
you.
some experiences you'd like to share from the week? Intentions, life intentions that you thought about? Thank you, Margie.
Oh, currently, I'm a little bit overwhelmed with what I'm currently dealing with because I have a deadline of the 18th of February, which is when I have to present my document. I'm doing a coaching course, and I have to present my 14-month document of the work I've prepared for this 14-month course in February. So I've got to do that. At the same time, I'm also doing a 1-year course on the Enneagram, which is proving to be a little bit daunting because of the time that I'm investing in that. And I also run a business, which has suddenly become very busy. So I'm finding that I'm a little bit overwhelmed with everything that's coming my way, or that I've created to come my way. But I just thought about it this week that something that came to me when I was walking my first Camino, while I was on the Mesitas, was that I just got to know in the deepest of my knowing that everything is just as it should be. And I just keep reminding myself of that, so that even in the state of overwhelm, I'm feeling calm and have the knowing that it is as it should be, and I can take my foot off the pedal and it'll work its way out. Because before I walked that first Camino, I was somewhat of a what they called a control freak, that I had to micromanage everything in my life. And I came back with my foot off the pedal. So I'm just reminding myself that that's what I need to do right now. Just know that it'll all work itself out.
Yeah, Margie, thank you. That's a beautiful analogy, really. It's just saying that, yeah, I think that's something that I've heard many pilgrims say, is that they learn to kind of let go to a certain extent, right? Or like you said, take the foot off the pedal. I heard a quote, or I read a quote this week that was something like that, and it made me stop for a second, because when I heard it, I thought, wait a second. It was something, I wish I would have wrote it down. It was something to the effect that it, if it costs money, then it's not worth it. If it's something you had to purchase, then it's not worth worrying about. So it was the idea of loss, right? So, and it goes a little bit about what Virginia was saying too, right? There's all these things that we put around ourselves, and on Camino, what do we walk with? We walk with, maybe 2 changes of clothes, maybe a pole, our boots, some water, an umbrella or a raincoat, maybe a knapsack. Very little, right? Very few things that we really, really need. And I think that's one of the things that the Camino taught me too, is like, to let go, right? To let off on the gas. It doesn't matter. My first one was in 2009. I was having it was a difficult time of my life, facing difficulties at home. Career was a major change. And it was a time to say, let me evaluate what really matters, right? And that's, I think, a little bit of what you're saying, Margie. Is we load ourselves up with so many things. It's like what I was saying about my deadline too. I the other night I couldn't sleep. I started thinking about all the things I had to put together to get this thing in order, and I couldn't sleep. And yet, just let the foot off the pedal a little bit and relax. It is as it should be, right? I like that. Any others have experienced something like that, or would like to add thoughts about your walks this week and your meditations? How about 2 more people, 2 more brave souls? Would that be all right? Too much to ask? Thank you, Judith. I saw your finger going to the unmute.
My 4 areas, all 4 of them seem to fit into personal growth, but I divided them up a little bit by putting health separately. That was the thing. I figured I was closer to the target on that, but I'm still working on that. The other one is relationships. Yeah, I thought more meaningful relationships, and then the other one is leadership. Um, Only because I've always been very nervous about public speaking. And the only thing that's helped me go through that problem of, feeling I couldn't do it was actually making presentations. And it all had to do with the Camino. And that was the first presentation I did. It was in 2015. But before that, I'd never done anything like that. And it was about 250 people in the audience. But I guess it's because it was a topic I loved, so it made it easy. And now it's becoming more easy. So, but I never ever thought of myself as being a leader because of my nervousness about that. But my daughter, she said, no, you are a leader. I guess she would know, right? But yes, personal growth. And the things I'm working on there are to be more mindful, to be in the present, to let go of the past. I have to boost my self-confidence. Don't let external events affect my internal state of mind. live intentionally, and don't merely react to circumstances, and don't waste time. So then in the health department, I want to walk and do yoga. I think the upper body is important too. Healthy eating, of course, avoid intoxicants, and manage stress by being more mindful, not allowing external events to affect my internal state of mind. Do breathing meditations, walking meditations, and watch less news. That's a real downer. Then in relationships, show gratitude more by writing thank you cards, give thoughtful gifts, offer my help, and be an active listener. Be assertive and don't spend too much time and effort trying to win the approval of others. Actively listen. Don't gunny sack, but instead communicate. Remember that you have two ears and one mouth for a good reason. I love that quote. And listen more than you speak. Actions speak louder than words. So I keep reading these things over and over again. When I get into a situation, because I keep reading them over and over again, I think, oh, how should I behave or act or talk, you know? And then just do more public speaking. In March, I've got another presentation, and it will be to another group of about 250 people. And that, oh, maybe not that much, because no, I don't think there'll be that many. But to do a presentation on our last Camino this fall. So just the more I do it, the easier it gets, which I'm so happy about. So anyway, that's my thing that I'm working on.
Good for you, Judith. Thank you. There's a lot, right? But those
It's a
are
lot.
those are all meaningful things. I really appreciate it. I think, and a lot of them tie
Yeah.
together.
There's a lot, yes. And like I say, a lot of it goes into the personal growth, but I feel I'm only 15%. I haven't asked my husband if he'd put myself in the same percentage, but I say 15% of the way there. I have a long way to go. Health,
Sure.
45% of the way. Relationships, 20% of the way. And my lowest one is leadership, 10% only. But anyway, we're working on it, and hopefully next December the 31st, I'll be at the end of, I'm journaling, and I really find that helps.
Excellent.
Journaling, writing, thinking, okay, this is a problem. How can I deal with it? You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
That's
Thank
it.
you. Margie, I see your hand up. You mentioned leadership just before I turn over to Margie. I've taught leadership for years, and the one thing, people say, what is leadership? And you define it in many, many ways. Through the years, I've decided it really comes down to one thing, and that's influence. So you don't see yourself as a leader, or many of us don't see ourselves as leaders, but do we influence others? And the fact is, we all do, right? For good or ill. So, for learning how to influence others for more good, I think is really what you're trying to do there. And you don't have to be a great public speaker to be a leader. There's people in history that were poor at speaking, right? I think they said that Paul had a speech impediment. But I'd say that Paul influenced us all at one time or another in our lives. Abraham Lincoln apparently had a squeaky, kind of annoying voice, and yet look at the words he conveyed, right? So I see hands. Margie, why don't you go first?
Judith, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
You used the word gully sack. What does that mean?
Gunny sack is to build up your problems, and it can eventually end up in an explosion. Like if you just hold all of your problems inside, and then suddenly something will trigger it, that you get really mad or whatever. Yeah. So you just bottle it up, in other words.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. When I teach coaching classes, I haven't used that term particular, but it's the same idea, right? That we dump on people. We hold things in, and instead of talking about one thing. I used to come home when my kids were teenagers, and I'd see, that they hadn't done their homework, or that they didn't clean their room, or that something was a mess, or they were being too noisy, or I don't know, the list would go on. And I'd say to myself, well, I don't want to attack them for any one thing because I've been gone for a little while. And so I let it build up until boom, dad loses it, right? And unloads on everything at once. And then they're going, oh, where do I start? Right? It's not very effective. Yeah, we all do that. Linda, I saw your hand up.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I just wanted to say to Judy that she's exhibited extreme leadership, in my opinion, because I didn't realize, Judy, I didn't realize I had been reading a lot of your entries in Camino for Good.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
And you've inspired me, you and your husband. Because, I mean, I did the Camino in last year, the Porto Camino, which is a shorter one, albeit, you know.
Yeah.
But I was so excited to do it because I am 81. I was 80 then. And I thought, oh my gosh, I just can't do this. And then I read what you and David are doing, and I'm like, I really have been inspired by you. And I was like, when you were in the chat room last week, I was so intimidated because I thought, oh my God, she's a celebrity. Well, I was like,
So much.
Very
so,
much.
I mean, I was very, very moved and inspired by what you had to say last week. And I feel that I just wanted to really tell you that you have inspired me in other ways as well.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so and it's not like, you know, it's not in a weird way, Judy. It's just that you can do it, and you and David can do it. And David's a little older than I am, you're a little younger. And I just thought that just gives me so much feeling of accomplishment for myself and for you, and just feel that we're breaking all the stereotypes of
Yeah.
ageism and sexism and all of these things, saying women can't do this, older women can't know this. And I feel personally really good about that. Now, I have a whole list of things I haven't met on my goals and stuff and all of that, but this thing is something that I wanted to share with you.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely. Yeah. You just keep doing what you can, right? Just keep on.
Exactly. And I think Camino is a good proving ground for that. I met a lot of people that were older on the Camino, and I was really thrilled to see that people were out at, you know, what could be from a lot of people a sedentary time of life, but people were out walking, they were out doing things, they were out exploring spiritually and physically and culturally. And I don't know, the whole idea, you know, is so meaningful to many, many levels.
Yeah.
And I hope to incorporate that more in life. And David, I have to say to you too, thank you for your leadership in these workshops. Yeah, I think it's really valuable what we're doing.
Yes, it is.
Well said. You are an inspiration. All of you are an inspiration that way. I think it's fantastic. I'm going to, just in the interest of time, we're running a little longer than I anticipated today. Sorry about that. But I'm going to introduce next week. So if Judy's listed, you know, several intentions. I've listed several intentions. You know, you have a list of things that go down, and you're saying these are all important. I put my target out there, and I'm out here on some, and I'm near the middle on others. So where do you start on these things? Where do you spend the idea of this whole week has been on the idea of focus. What we want to do is we want to identify some headwinds and kind of see if we can identify them and remove them. What are the obstacles? What are the things that are getting in the way to living your life as you intend to live it? So if you have those health intentions, you have those leadership intentions, what are the headwinds? What are the things that are blowing against you that might get in your way for fulfilling those categories? So for each of the categories, one a day, I'd ask you to, as you walk, consider each one of those. Okay. And then on the last couple of days, estimate the extent to which those obstacles you've identified may prevent you from living the way you want to live. So what I'm saying is, if I've identified these 5 obstacles, maybe it's these 2 that really are getting in the way. Maybe the 3 are a lesser extent. So there's a worksheet in the companion guide. Let me pull that up. So it's just saying I'm going to identify what each of the obstacles are for work, for relationships, for leisure, travel, for personal growth, spirituality. And then I'm trying to identify them. Is it really not big an obstacle, or is it completely preventing me? And what you're going to do then is we'll come back on week 4 and say, what's the one thing? So taking all these life intentions into account, taking these major obstacles that I've identified, what's the one thing I need to focus on over the next few weeks in order to live my life as I intend to live it? So that's where we're going for the next 2 weeks. So the first week is obstacles, headwinds, things that are preventing you from living those intentions, and then kind of rating them and maybe listing them in order. This is the big one. These are the big 3 that I have to overcome. Because it's much like what Virginia said, we could probably list all sorts of obstacles that we carry around with us or facing us, but maybe a lot of them don't matter. Maybe a lot of them are just little bumps in the road, and maybe 1 or 2 of them are very serious things that we need to focus on. So that's what I'd like you to think about during the week. Any questions or comments about that exercise?
No.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good.
Oh,
There we go. Gunny sack. I love it.
yeah, gunnies. I couldn't find the chat before, so.
Yeah. There you go. Any other comments or questions? For those of you who mentioned that you've used the Camino for Good app in the past, and I heard it was in past tense, you can always reset it. So if you're on a monthly subscription, that's a different story. But if you're on the monthly subscription, you can use any of the routes anytime, as long as your subscription's intact. But if you've purchased a route, so say you've done the Camino Frances and you've walked it virtually before, if you want to reset it, you can, and you can go back and reuse it as many times as you want. And we are in the process. It's going a little slower than I'd hope, but we are in the process of adding 2 or 3 more routes. So you should be seeing those in the next month or 2 as well. So just encourage you to keep that active and pay attention to that.
Okay. Well, James, there is a person I'm walking the Camino Frances with again. I don't know how many times we've done it, but she's in Australia, Janine Sawyer, and she wasn't able to reset. So she's walking it, but I have no idea where she is right now. I think I just went over the Bill of Forgiveness. So I'm in, the next town after the hill. So anyway, but she's walking it with me. I have no idea where she is because she couldn't reset. Janine Sawyer
If she,
in Australia.
I'll look at I can look at the list and see if I can find her and see if there's anything I can do on my end. There is, I was looking at this. Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen right now, but I'm looking at, trying to refer you to the right spot on the app. So just one moment. My computer is a little slow. It's kind of like me in the mornings. It tends to go a little slower for some reason. Yeah. I'm not finding it, but anyway, I'll look at her. If they look under the technical help on the app site, there's instructions for doing that. I'll look for it and see if I can't send it out on the message as well.
Okay.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments?
Oh,
Uh-oh. Linda, you've had the same problem? Oh, for your friend. Okay.
For my friend Deb Komatsu, who walked it with me before, we've done all 3 routes, and now she's trying to reset hers. I just resubscribed for that $5 a month for the year,
Yeah.
and I think I set it. I just got a whole new
If
I
you're
got a new path.
if you are subscribing to it, then you can use any path anytime, so that you can switch back and forth. If they purchase a route, that's where they have to go back and reset it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll stay on here for a minute and find that, and I can post it up here on the post. So for those of you who want to hang tight for a minute, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
oh dear. Did it work?
Okay, so if not, I'm going to let you go. I'll say buen camino, and hope to see you next week. It'll be the same link next week. I will send out reminders and things on the tools, but hope to see you here next week as well. And buen camino. I'm going to